We are in week 6. I told you before you knew it, you'd be moving. I tell people that week 6 represents the highest point that you're going to go. So you go from week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, and you go up the ladder. And 6 is like the highest point that you end up going. But then you get to starting to go down. So you want to make sure that you do go down. So you are going to do that. So okay. All right. So what we can do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. Jamie, you might want to close your stop your video, because I can see everything that's going on there. I see you. If you frown up, if you do anything, I can see it, and everybody else. So all you have to do is put the little mouse on the video and click it, and it'll do this. It'll stop it. But now I'm starting mine back up again, so you can see it. All right. Your mic's already muted. Jamie.
Yeah, I don't even see a video of myself.
I see you. I see something that says you. And you
where do I click to get rid of it?
Can you see my mouse? Can you see it? See the camera thing? The little camera thing? Click on it. There we go. It's gone. Okay. Real funny story real quick before we get started. One of our colleagues was in a session with a bunch of us. And this individual was not fully dressed. And he got up. And when he got up, you could see he was in his underwear. And everybody said, oh no, they were trying to tell him, kill your video. So needless to say, there's a way to do it from this end. I don't know, but it was just...
I had no idea. I was going to change to my pajamas.
Yeah. So now I'm going to mute you. So now you're muted. So now if you say something, I shouldn't hear you, but I'm going to mute everybody again. There we go. Okay, so now let's get started so we don't have background noise. So let's start with where we are in week 6. Let's look at what we have here. Of course, I'm not going to go over this stuff over here. We've already been over this enough. So I'm going to take you right down here and remind you that we have 2 more lectures that take place week 8 and week 10. And so you got just 2 more opportunities. And the next one, when it comes up, that'll be the next to the last one. So I do appreciate you taking time to come out. It answers some questions. I have had a few questions about APA. And in fact, a student asked me a question about the comment that I make frequently when I take away 5 points if you fail to provide citations in the body of the paper and references at the end. Even if you provide one or the other, you're still going to lose points because APA requirement requires that you have both of them. So the point of the matter is citations, and a student wanted to know what citations were about, and I explained to the student that citations are the words that are in usually after a sentence or a paragraph that indicate where you got this information from. And you provide, you know, the details based on the requirements of the format. And then you provide, in parentheses, the year. So it's basically the author or the article or whatever it is. And like you'll say, how to kill cats. And then you'll say, parentheses, Wright, that's me. And then parentheses, 2017. So that means that it's something that I had wrote, and now I gave the title of what it was and that. And so when you cite cases, court cases, I want you to cite the full case, such as if it's a Supreme Court case, I'll give an example, 283 U.S. 50, 2017. So what I did was I said the volume, I said what the publication was, which would be United States Supreme Court, and then the page number, and then the year. So that's for court cases. Statutes is a little tricky. Depends on how it's laid out. Again, if you look at the APA information, make sure you use the APA resources. How do you read the cases? I'm not sure what that means, but when you say read the cases, you research. You can research the cases, and if you're looking for a particular case, you can go to, like for example, I've given you. Okay, let me give you this. I want to show you something. I'm going to give you one right here. Okay, justia.com. Okay, now there's one right there I just sent you. And let's see, I don't know if I thought it would turn up in, the, let's see. Yeah, justia.com is a source that you can find cases, and if you go on that website, it'll lead you to Supreme Court cases and state cases as well for research, and then you can find them. All right? All right, you got that. So now, anyway, and then as far as the reference is concerned, the reference is more detailed information on a reference page. It is not acceptable to have your references and citations in the paper. The citations are in the paper. The references are at the end. So your paper should look something like cover sheet, body of paper, 1 to 2 pages, or whatever the number of pages required, with the information that you've written to present your paper, with citations in the body explaining where you got the information. Let's say, for example, that water is H2O. The formula for water is H2O. Then, if you'll know that. But let's say, for example, let's assume you're not an expert, you don't know that, and you went and found it. Then you put in parentheses the source that you got that information from. Science Today, article written by blah, blah, blah in 2017. That kind of thing. But at the very end, then you're going to elaborate, and you're going to put more details. And most of you do well with the reference part. But there's students who still get the thing mixed up. They think that, hey, well, then maybe I should get half of the points. Well, here's the deal. You're not half right about something when you're presenting an issue. You're either right or you're going to be wrong. Now, we might say that, and then we always say that if there's some wrong information in there, or missing information, you haven't satisfied all of the requirements, so you're not going to be able to get it. So you get my point. And that's APA. Very, very, very important. But if you go to, let me move this down. Let me move Jamie a little bit. Okay. And if you go to resources, and you keep going down, and you go to APA guide, right there. And you click on that, and it will show you a short video, which it's easy. This will pop up sometime, and then all I do is activate my Adobe Flash, and then when I activate my Adobe Flash, it's going to show up. And this is a 3-minute 12, and I'm going to put it in here. Let's take a few minutes to look at this, and it'll explain to you something.
This video demonstrates basic navigation of the redesigned APA guide and highlights some of the most popular content in the guide, including the APA sample paper, APA paper template, and examples of references, lists, and in-text citations. Content in the guide can be easily accessed by clicking on the tabs on the left side of the page. Notice that there are major tabs, and for 2 topics, APA Basics and References, and tabs for supporting pages. Also note that once a major tab has been selected, the subtabs may disappear. These subpages can be accessed by clicking on the major tab or by clicking on the down arrow on the tab. Information is organized in a series of boxes. Some boxes contain tabs that allow for additional content to be added to a page and reduces scrolling. Simply click on the tab in the box to access the information. For example, clicking on tabs 1 through 4 provides an introduction to the APA citation style, and tab 5 provides easy access to the APA sample paper and the APA paper template, a pre-formatted APA paper that can be downloaded and used for every APA assignment. Click on the References tab to display an exciting new feature in the redesigned APA guide. This section of the guide provides a visual representation of where to find bibliographic information needed to create a reference to a particular resource type. This section includes subtabs that provide information and examples of APA references and in-text citations for a variety of resource types. For example, clicking on the Article subtab links to a page that provides information about how to cite an article, followed by a tabbed box that provides the format and an example of a reference and related in-text citation, both the parent article and the in-text formats. In addition, this page includes information about DOI numbers and why they're important to the APA citation style. Clicking on the Course Materials subtab links to a page with examples of citations for a variety of course material types, including e-textbooks. Other tabs provide access to APA webinars, formatting guidelines, Wright citation tool, as well as information about creating academic bibliographies, abstracts, and appendices. Take time to click and explore this information-packed guide. For help on this topic and more, check out our Answers database where you can search our frequently asked questions or chat with the Rasmussen librarian.
Okay. Okay, let me exit that. Okay, so now you're back to this. But you'll notice that it tells you in the guide down further. If you look down, you will see everything about why do you do it? You know, when do you do it? What is it? And it tells you clearly, but a different citation is not a reference. How do you create it? We've kind of seen that, but again, references, citations and references, and so forth. You know, but it's important to understand the why we cite, and I've kind of explained that before. But and then there are other links here. Some of you guys already have never even bothered to look at this, and let me tell you something. And the reason why I decided to take the time now, we're going into the second half of the course, is that you guys will pick up 5 points pretty quickly because you guys write pretty well. And, you know, you take care of your Grammarly issues. That's another thing. But not many of you have had the Grammarly problem, just a few. But the point is that you have not applied these things that are necessary to help you deal with that APA. But that is, there it is. It's right there. Excuse me, it's right there before you, and you just have to go into it as well. But very, 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 very important, and you will pick up 5 points on your assignments. And just think about it, what I'm about to say. If you have 11 weeks of assignments and just one assignment, I'm not talking about discussion posts. I'm talking about your written assignment, but just say 11 weeks, each week you have one, and you lose 5, that's 55 points that you lost. And let's assume then that you have, in some weeks, 2 assignments, which you do, then you haven't done it, and you do that maybe for about 3 weeks or 4 weeks. You know, that's 20. So you're losing 75 points. And that's a lot of points. That could make the difference in an A and a B and a C. I don't even want to talk about C, but the A and a B. So it's important. It's important. And that's why I wanted to take this over. I guess I probably could have gone over this earlier in the quarter, but because I've seen a couple questions pop up, I thought I'd take the time to make sure that everybody understands it. And I tell you, that template that they talked about, it helps you to make sure that you use the proper format. I had a student that was saying that he was using a template or some kind of APA machine, but it wasn't ours. And one of the advisors pointed out to the student that system that they were using was not as good as ours. Well, somebody said, but it didn't, and that it sent some false information out that resulted in the student losing points. But once they understood it, they got it. So hopefully students will take time and look at this lecture, and then they'll be able to see something that will benefit you, okay? Really, really very, very, very important. And this carries over into other classes too. And then the final thing I'm going to say about APA is that I've had some students that say to me, Professor, you're the only one who does this. I says, that's not good, because it should be a college-wide practice. All the professors should follow, because it prepares you for writing, which as you will discover in your careers that you're going into in criminal justice, human services, or whatever you go into, you're going to write reports. You're going to have to research, you know, and so you're going to find information, and it's very, 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 very important that you make sure that you get that information down. And it's very, 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 very important that you develop that habit. When I was in college, we didn't have that. We used footnotes, which was more involved than the APA format. So just to summarize, your cover sheet, Noodlebib helps you with that, to format that properly. Your cover sheet is one sheet. it should not involve the text of your paper or the body of your paper, and then the body of your paper followed by your reference page, and that's the complete paper. So that I'm not getting into the content part, but that's that. All right. So now let's get into where we are today. Week 6 announcements. Prison experience, male versus female, and we're going to discuss some of the issues that are involved with females and males. And you're going to be reading section 6 and 8 and 11 of your textbook. Then complete the activity, classification, myth versus fact, and some thoughts from a prison lieutenant. We're going to go, I'm going to share that with you at the end tonight. And then your discussion posts, issues unique to female inmates. Excellent, 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 excellent discussion post this week. And again, you know the deadline, that was yesterday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, and then you already understand how I grade them, because if you're getting to the habit now, I can tell the way you guys submit them. You know what I'm looking for. You look at the template. Just remember, always use your rubric. Make sure you use your rubric always as a guideline. I gave you rubrics for your written assignments, for your assignments that you have for the project, and for the discussion posts. Make sure that you do those, and you'll be graded accordingly. So I give you back my feedback pretty much based on how well you followed the rubric. Again, APA has shot a lot of people in the foot, and I think we'll have that fixed after today, assuming that people will look at this video. You guys are in here having an advantage, and you know, I'm not saying that any of you guys are guilty of it. I'm just pointing out to all of my students that it's very, 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 very important. Plus, you notice too that I started out at the very beginning with that information in your course information, as well as on your syllabus. So now you got some clarification as well. Finally, we have written assignments, 3 issues in male prisons today, and you have the Stanford prison experience. The Stanford prison experience is an assignment based on some material that's in the module, and you go through it, and just make sure you cite and reference. You know, I know, you know, a lot of people says, oh, well, it's only that one source. Well, yeah, yes, but, you know, you want to mainly do it. By the way, for your information, I don't know if you know this or not, but it actually was made, the Stanford Prison Experience was actually made into a movie. I'm trying to remember, it was one of the HBO, Showtime, one of those. I saw parts of it. I didn't see the whole thing. But Stanford Prison Experience was made into a video or a movie to explain it. And it's a very good piece. And then finally, my adversity springboard success, I shared that, I think, with you guys already as to what I went through to reach this place that I am now. So I think I did. If I didn't, let me know. When any of you guys remember seeing that in my previous lectures, I think I did. You can type in there and I'll see it. But I think, I'm almost sure I did it in this class. It's one of the classes I missed. And so I'm not seeing any responses, so it must mean I must have done it. So you'll understand. All right. Next, let's look at the calendar. The calendar says, there we go. We are here, and it tells the assignments for this week, the discussion post, and then it tells the 2 written assignments that are there. And elaborating on it, I explain 1 to 2 pages. Don't give me a paragraph. Don't be afraid to do 2 pages. I want to, I want your information about what you thought of it and what you feel about it and what you thought was good about it, what's bad about it, those kinds of things. Same thing here. Your critical thinking is what I'm interested in the 3 issues in male prisons today. And you're going to see the terms for that in just a minute. And then a reminder that next week, what your assignments are, we won't have a lecture. And then our following lecture, next to the last one, will be the 23rd at the same time. Let's go to our week 6. Again, I like to go over the assignments again. These are the written assignments. Explain what you believe are the top 3 issues in male prisons today. And in the second part of your paper, for each issue you identified, each of the issues, the 3 issues you identified, offer a suggested solution as to how the criminal justice system can respond, improve, or address the issue. Again, APA, see what it tells you. It says cite any source. And then for any information about APA, it tells you where to visit. We did that already, so you'll know again. Same thing for your second paper. It doesn't say that, but then it tells you where you can find the site. All you have to do is click on this, and by the way, just so I'll show you, and then you deal with these 4 questions. Let me show you something. I'm going to, and there it is right there. And, oh, wow, they fixed it. Oh, good. See, this is the film trailer I was telling you about earlier. They fixed this. Thank you. Before in the past, they hadn't. And then you can see the discussion. You can go to the link for discussion, and then the story, and you can learn more about it. But it is really, really an interesting experiment that you can find. It is, let's see, it says documentary DVD is available also out there as well. I am going to recommend to our school, I don't know if they will do it, if they can go ahead and get the actual film, because there's a trailer in here, so I'm not going to play that for you. But you want to find out about what this is all about, and when finished, answer the following questions in essay forms. A student said to ask me, what's the difference in, do we have to use APA format and essay form? I said, all your papers are written in essay form unless it's an outline. But most of your papers are not outlines. And so you want to make sure that you follow through on that. And then your discussion posts, which we've already kind of talked about there. Okay. Any questions about any of the assignments? Okay. Seems like, okay, no one has a question on it. Okay. Okay, good. All right, so let's get right back into the section that comes next, and that is our lesson content. Objectives, we've already kind of laid those out, so, but then again, this is repeating what your reading requirement is for the textbook. And then some of the things here that we're going to go over in a few minutes. Classification, myth versus fact, and then conclude with thoughts from a prison lieutenant. So that'll be down here, this video. So I'm going to put that up for you. So let's talk about classification. You had to do some work on that. As you already know, that when a person commits a crime, depending on the kind of crime, will kind of determine their classification based on also the kind of situation that individual finds themselves in terms of a risk level. And so as a result, if a person, for example, commits a crime because of a drug problem or alcohol problem, to seek to get that treatment. And I will tell you this, that in the many years as a criminal prosecutor, but primarily as a criminal defense lawyer, I discovered that most of my clients, almost all of them inevitably, who committed offenses, some violent, and the reason why they were violent is because they were trying to get to something that they needed, that their body required them. But anyway, what I'm saying is that drugs and alcohol addiction play a big role in the criminology of individuals, why individuals commit crimes. You'll find that out in a course that, Carissa, that you were talking about, is that drugs and alcohol create control over the body, the mind, and kind of like puts you in a puppet or robotic state where it forces you to do things to satisfy those habits, such as commit burglaries, robberies, and even some murders. But I will tell you that most of the time, even those offenses that end in those murder situations or homicide situations didn't start out that way. It's just that the person may have gotten in the way of that person, and they are so out of control that the requirement of satisfying that urge, that they will do anything and do anything to anybody. It's common knowledge that if a person is in your home and they're your child or either your spouse or relative or whomever or good friend, if they're addicted to these things, they'll steal from you. They'll take things away. They'll commit crimes that they wouldn't commit. So what is necessary is that these individuals who find themselves in these situations, evaluated from these situations, if these are not addressed, what happens is the person will be released and then they will come back. We call those recidivists or repeat offenders. And they continue on and on and on, oftentimes until they're killed. Let me give you an example from just one of my cases. I had a young man that I represented many years ago, and the young man was arrested and locked up for committing residential burglaries. And he went to jail, he got out, he committed some more residential burglaries. So finally I got him, and when I got him as a client, they had him in jail, and I recommended to his family, actually to his mother, he was an adult, that they not bail him out. I said it's because he has this problem. And they said, well, you know, everybody has some kind of problem. I said, no, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. You want to make sure that that individual gets what they need in terms of it. So anyway, what they ended up deciding to do was, over my recommendation against it, they bailed him out. So anyway, they bailed him out. Shortly after that, within a few days, I get a phone call, a disturbing phone call. that he was dead. And here's what happened. He went out and crossed the highway, the expressway, and went to the other side of town, jumped over the fence on both sides. And when he got there, he was committing a burglary, and the police were chasing him. Well, he was trying to get away from the police, so he jumped the fence and tried to go back across the highway again. And he was hit multiple times by vehicles that resulted in his death. And it wasn't that he was a bad guy, it was that he wasn't, the drug issue wasn't addressed. And so it is important that we have programming like that. Unfortunately, we both know, students and professors, that because of the budgetary restraints, many of these programs are dwindling, and they don't have the adequate funds to treat the problem. And I keep reminding people, I've testified a couple of times, that, hey, look, if we don't take care of the problem, it's going to continue, and it's going to be a revolving door, and it's going to result. And I use that young man as an example of the kind of situations that can occur. So depending on what they are, drug treatment, alcohol treatment, education. You probably already know this, but if not, I'll say it. I'm a big believer that education is the key to cutting into recidivism. I had a person that said to me once, and I saw it written in one of my previous lectures, it might have been in week 4 that I saw it. But anyway, in one of my lectures, because I have 6 classes that I teach, actually 2 sections of this, so I teach 5 classes. But in there, a person said, well, it's not fair for a person to go to prison or jail and receive a free education, because people would go to jail to get a free education. And I said, I felt like anybody knows Scooby-Doo? What? In other words, you got to be kidding. I have never, ever heard or seen that in my entire life. That's what a person that says something that they're not even thinking about what they're saying. But the bottom line is I have participated in programs, and yeah, that's crazy. I agree. I participated in a program years ago when I was a practicing attorney, and a noted Cook County judge, his name was R. Eugene Pencham, and he was a lawyer for many years. He was my mentor, and he, taught me a lot about being a good lawyer, criminal lawyer especially. Well, Judge Pencham, in his courtroom, room 702, at 26 in California, which is our main criminal court building in Cook County, he, along with his probation officer, a guy named Harold Bailey, instituted a program called Probation Challenge. You could Google Probation Challenge, and you will still see some information about it. But here's what happened. Probation Challenge started in that courtroom, and the judge and his probation officer came up with the concept that if an individual came before him that had not committed a violent offense, and was in a situation where they qualified for probation, he would offer them probation, but one of the conditions that he would offer is that they had to participate in this program called Probation Challenge. And I was on the advisory board for that for many years. I still participate with them even now because Judge Pencham's passed away. But anyway, that requirement became law because one of our board members was a state senator in Illinois, and he took it to Springfield, and it's now on the books. Anyway, what I'm getting ready to tell you is that those individuals who did participate in those programs, Probation Challenge, were very successful because what happened is that they turned their life into a new direction. they obtained their GEDs, and we partnered with a City College of Chicago campus, Olive Harvey College, if you're familiar with the area in Cook County. It's part of our City College system in Chicago. And they were able to matriculate and go in and get associate's degrees, and some even went further and got bachelor's degrees and other things. And one guy, I had been told, was pushing toward becoming a lawyer, and he got his background cleared and everything, and I don't know if he made it or not, but my point being is that the focus on committing crime because of a lack of education will decrease the number. I always say it's cheaper to educate than to incarcerate, and I think that makes a whole lot of sense too as well. And then the job skill training programs, where people are able to qualify for second chance jobs, learn skills while they're in prison as well. Once again, about avoiding the need to commit crimes and find themselves in situations where they can support their families. So anyway, the classification fits within the realms of some of these types of things. But once they're incarcerated, individuals, it says, experience a cultural change, because what happens is that I always tell people, if you want to learn how to be a criminal, or you want to get a degree in criminology, not the kind of course that you were taking, Carissa, but it's a play on words. If you want to learn criminology, go to the University of Crime, and that's the prison. Because what happens is that you're exposed to individuals who are not going anywhere. You got lifers, you got extended term individuals, you got individuals whose mindset is not to get any help, but instead what they do is they teach you these habits, and you take away these habits so that when you are released, you actually get involved in that same activity. A lot of people are introduced to gangs even in prison, so they continue that type of things. So the bottom line is that there's a lot of things involved. Involve contraband as well, examples of contraband, weapons, drugs, alcohol, clothing, so forth. There's all these different things that you begin to see as a culture, and it's nothing like what you saw before. So guess what? You start to hang with that thing. So what is one of the things that they tell you when you are released on parole, or as some jurisdictions call it, mandatory supervised release, or they have other names, but it's still parole? What do they tell you? What's one of the conditions that you guys are familiar with, that when you're released from prisons, that every one of these individuals is given? One condition. What is it? Name it. Type it in. Well, no, rehab is not it. Nope. Anybody else? I'm going to take a shot. Something that you're told, don't do this, because if you do, you're going to violate your parole. And think about what we just got through talking about. Well, don't drink or do drugs, yes, but there's something even more. No, not drugs. And Jamie changed privately to publicly, but the answer is not drugs. Since everybody is taking a shot, I'll tell you. Anybody else? Kelsey, what about you? Any shots? Any ideas? Yes, that's close. You're heading in the right direction. Of course, that's true. But there's a step before that. But you're right on it. Don't come back. That's a reason. Now, here it is. Think about this. You've been all the time in prison. You've been around these people. That's who you got to know. That's who you formed your relationships with. That's who you became. Okay, yes. Do not hang around with criminals. You can't be around convicted felons. That's a common condition. And the reason for that is because of some of the other things that you guys said. But the preceding point that I was trying to get you to focus on is that it just goes with what I just said a few minutes ago. Your culture change, because then you're going to, you ever heard the saying, birds of a feather flock together? You know, you hang around with people and you become like them, you know, so that's the point I'm talking about there. So what happens is that when they are released, they're all of a sudden told you can't hang around with none of those people. Now, guess what? Some of those people include family members, you know, because, you know, it's not uncommon, and I had it happen as a lawyer. I represented various generations. I represented sons and daughters of previous criminals because I had practiced so long. So by the time I got near the end of my career from 78 to 2000, you know, I had quite a few people that I had represented whose kids were in the system. But the bottom line is that that's what ends up taking place, is that you're told not to do that. So and then the other side of that is a lot of people don't want to accept you outside of that. So you're in a catch-22 situation. So anyway, dealing with classification, we have to really understand what we need to do. So two important issues to prison are sex and violence. And you and I both know that there's one of the issues, particularly dealing with females. Females are exposed and exploited by males and female correction officers and individuals. And, you know, and one of the reasons that happens is because people don't believe them. They'll take the side of the officer instead. But there have been laws and things that says in 2003, President Bush signed the Prison Rape Elimination Act. It's like a joke of a name. Didn't eliminate it, but it provided information and training to inmates and to staff. But once again, the problem still existed and still continues even to today. And it says that violence is prevalent, so as well. Now, while talking about the sex issue, you and I are both probably aware of this, is that if you are incarcerated and you commit a crime against a child, you're a pedophile. They're after you. They don't like pedophiles in prison, and they will rape pedophiles and or kill them or commit violent acts on them as well. So you got to keep them segregated and those kind of things. So again, we get to the different kinds of individuals that are being incarcerated. You can't throw it all these individuals into one place. Plus, because of the gang issues as well. So the violence is prevalent and occurs from inmates to actual riots that take place there. And a lot of those that take place are gang activities where there are individuals trying to recruit people and they mix the wrong people up. And so it talks about their assaults on staff and other inmates as well. So these are issues that have to be dealt with in terms of classification. Many of the same issues, as I said, apply to women prison, the female. Yep. Yeah, you can watch those shows and you can learn a lot about individuals in prisons and jails and what people are subjected to. But with the female has problems that go from the range of what some of you guys have pointed out, suicide, and the suicide generally comes because of a separation from their children And, you know, those kind of situations. You have pregnancies that take place in the prisons that females have to deal with as well, in addition to what I said earlier about assault from prison officials as well. So it says females are more likely than males to be convicted of nonviolent crimes and incarcerated for more passive roles in drugs and crimes, and this has increased the population. I will say this to you, that again, I represented a bunch of females, but I can tell you that almost every female that I know who committed a crime generally committed that crime because of some guy. Most of the time, significant others, husbands, wives, husbands or spouses. It's amazing, but and then I've seen a number of females who were incarcerated because they were victims of domestic violence, and they didn't, and according to the system, they didn't, how should I say, allow the law to take it, and they took the law in their own hands. But again, there's a battered wife syndrome issue. I represented some people in some of those cases, and I did pretty good with them. But I also know people who went down with those kinds of things. But the nonviolent crimes, such as robbery, I don't mean robbery is kind of violent, but theft, burglary, and those kinds of things, selling drugs and those kind of things for some person, not to mention prostitution and so forth. Some unique issues that relate to women are that fewer prisons are available, and that's true. That is absolutely true. In Illinois, the biggest one that we had at one time was the Wright Correctional Center in a town called Wright, Illinois. It's not too far from Romeoville, where I am now, and it's probably about an hour, maybe an hour drive from here, or 45-minute drive from here. But that's where all the females in the state went for many years. Now it's closed, and I forget the name of the other one that they have. But there's a lot of problems, and it pointed out here that prisonization occurs with females, social process involved formulating kinship network, motherhood, and women's health issues are also heavily involved, and there's need for programs to address those issues. Sexual abuse, as I said, continues to be a problem, along with sexual assault by guards. It says by male guards, but I also want to point out to you by female guards as well. You should be aware that there are male guards who are in female prisons, and there are also female guards in male prisons. One of my students is a major now. She was a lieutenant for years, and I'm trying to work a week to get her in. But if I do, I'm going to have to make sure I have at least 10 students to attend, and I'm going to put out a request for that. I don't know if I'm going to do it in week. It will probably be the last week that we do it, week 10, that we do that. So, but at any rate, so you can hear things. But you're going to learn some of those things tonight at the end of this session. So there's a lot of problems in terms of classification. A lot of things that have to be dealt with in terms of problems with females. Okay, so now there are a number of misconceptions regarding prison and prison life. And do you think, and it's a myth, it says inmates easily adjust to prison life. What do you think? You can, you don't have to type it in the little box here because you can't. But what do you think? Do you think that's true? And if not, this is giving you a chance to put something in the chat box about that issue. What do you think? Depends. Okay, elaborate a little more. Give me more on that. Do inmates easily adjust to prison life? Is that a myth or a fact? I think it's. I think. And Kelsey said it depends. Anybody else? Okay, let's see. Let me get to the chat box here. It says, Carissa says, I don't think they do for the simple fact that their whole world changes. Freedoms are gone. Their basic needs are not met as well as they would be on the outside. That's true. Kelsey comes back and says, if the inmate is used to hostile environments or stressful environments, I don't see why it's impossible. I think that you should consider this, is that you don't have any control when you're in prison life. When you are involved in stressful environments or hostile environments, there are times when you can escape from it. But if you're incarcerated, you don't have a choice because you're thrown in with it like everybody else. Renell says, I don't think so because they are in a new environment that they've never been before. And you know what? That's an interesting comment because the fact that we talk about you have recidivists, but every time that they come back in, they pick up a little bit more and lose hope for the future. So, so those are the kind of things. So the answer is, it is a myth. There is no easy adjustment to that. Let's go to the next one. Prisons are controlled and inmates closely monitored. Comments. Prisoners are controlled and inmates closely monitored. Prisons are controlled and inmates are closely monitored. On paper, maybe. In practice, not as well as they should be. Okay. Anybody else? What do you think? Depends. Ever seen 60 days in, the inmates are not well supervised. Okay. I will say this. I say sometimes yes, sometimes no. But yeah, it does depend on the jail. But here's what I will say to you, is that there's an attempt to control, but because of staffing issues, many, many problems occur that are not able to be controlled. And the other fact is that inmates closely monitored, again, goes to the same issue. Have you noticed that you're hearing more and more and more of alleged, and I say alleged because some of these are not suicides, alleged suicides that take place in prisons. Says Carissa, plus they're criminals, their whole MO is to circumvent the system and be sneaky. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Again, you got to go back to the point of what I said earlier. You're labeled a criminal because you were convicted, but then we need to get to the reasons why. I think that as you take a course that you're talking about, you're going to get into the mind and you're going to learn that sneaky comes to be a form of survival when all hope is gone, or either they'd accept it as a way of life. But there are many, many, many individuals who are not. Now, let me give you an example of something that you should be aware of. Pay attention to this. And I know about this a lot. There have been many instances of individuals who were exonerated by the newly discovered DNA evidence or something else now more than ever before. When I started practicing, we didn't have it. But DNA revolutionized it, and then with the technological issues that we have now, there are more people being exonerated. But here's the problem. The problem is that those individuals have been in there maybe 20, 25 years, and then they come out. But based on what I talked about earlier, their whole life has changed during that period of time. No matter how strong they said they were or how much they said they were, they're still going to have to survive. And in order to survive, oftentimes they had to adapt to pick up habits that they didn't have before. So as a result, those individuals can have problems when they get out, almost inevitably. And I know several individuals who, I don't know them personally, but who in the state of Illinois, who were released after many years and hadn't done anything, but then after a matter of time and they were out, they got big money, settlements, they were back in. This time they did do something, but it's a result of what they systematically picked up as a way to survive. So to the point, though, about closely monitored, it's better than it was before, but it needs to go a whole lot further. And it does depend on the institution. So the answer, as we would say in law, is sometimes yes and sometimes no. Let's get to the next one. Contraband is rare. Absolutely. 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 Anybody think it's rare? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen the Orange is the New Black, but I know what that is. I know what that's all about, and I understand it. And some people don't understand what that means. That has to do with the color of the jumpsuits. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, it is false. It's all day long. Contraband, let me tell you something, guys. I represented a few misguided correction officers who smuggled in things to people, some knowing and some not knowing, but they still violated the rules. I had a young man that I represented, and he wasn't at the prison stage. He was at the county jail stage, county, one of our busiest and largest county jail systems in Illinois. Anyway, what he was doing was he was bringing in magazines, and he did. I feel that criminals are the smartest people in the world. They are the smartest people in the world? No. First of all, number one, let me take you both back. Raynell says they are the smartest people in the world. I think she means are not. But anyway, Carissa says not if they get caught. Well, the definition of a criminal is one who got caught committing a crime. So if they were so smart, they wouldn't have got caught. So that's an oxymoron, smart criminal. There is no such thing. It is what it is, so you get caught. But anyway, okay. The point of the matter is that contraband was brought into this place, and the magazines that they brought in. Now, what do you think was the problem with the magazines? I'm going to see how good any of you guys are with the magazines that this person was bringing in. What do you think was the problem with the magazines? Nope. That's what the first thought is. Any other guesses? Yes. How do you come to that conclusion? You're right, but how did you come to that conclusion? You guessed it. Okay, well, you need to know why, though. Anybody have any idea why she's right? That it was drugs, that was the problem with the magazine? The magazines? Any ideas? They can do something with the glue. Nah, it wasn't the glue. That's not true either. It wasn't acid tablets. Okay, here's the answer. The magazines would be soaked in liquid drugs, and then they were dried, and then they were pressed out, and then they were given to the inmates. So what did the inmates do? What did the inmates do? What did the inmate do? Nope. Chewed them. They chewed the pages. That's how they rehydrated them. But yes, they chewed the pages and swallowed them. And they would get high on the drugs that were in that have been absorbed in the paper. And I said, wow, it's right. But those are the kinds of things. I mean, and by the way, yeah, it's not conspicuous at all. But here's what I'm getting, even the drug sniffing dogs could. But here's what I'm going to tell you, is that, just so you'll know, there was sports magazines and some other kind. None of them were pornographic. Almost everybody thought that was the issue. But there are other things that happen. Like some of the things you said, people, razor blades are put in, all kinds of things that books are brought in, and in the binders they put razor blades, and they hide drugs, like some of the things you said. But this one I was talking about, this was the most interesting one that I had ever encountered. And we all said, wow. You know, yeah. So anyway, as correction officers, you should be aware that contraband is always a possibility. It is not rare. Okay, let's move right along. Most inmates are sexually assaulted, particularly when new to the institution. True or false? Well, the cell phone in prison, that's a whole other issue. That's contraband, but trust me, I had a client I was representing. He had a cell phone openly, so it's all kinds of stuff like that happens. But on the sexual assault issue, you hesitate to breathe life into that one. I don't understand that statement, but you can help me by elaborating more on that. You said you feel that could be true, but hesitate to breathe life into that. Help me out. I think I know where you're coming from, but give it to me. Well, first of all, it is definitely true. Yeah. Well, don't worry about saying it depends. If you ever become a lawyer, like you learn that. You feel like the Rock. Well, I don't know. There's some stuff that takes place in situations where there's some pretty muscular people. So, but the fact of the matter is that it is true. Most inmates are sexually assaulted, particularly when they're naive or new to the institution, because you know they link up with people who are the strong one, or either they're forced to link up with them in order to survive, to protect them, and they'll exchange sexual favors. So, yeah, same thing. But sexually assaulted is rape is sexual assault. That's my definition of it, and I think that's what the law says as well. But you know, be aware of the fact that you are open to that, particularly when new. And I already addressed the issue about if you are a person who, you know, is a pedophile or something along those lines, you're open to it. So the answer is yes. Okay, let's go to the next. It says, due to tight control, assaults are rare. We don't have to spend much time on that. We already discussed that, so we don't have to spend a lot of time. We know that's false. Or let's see, here in Florida, verbal, physical, battery is physical. I was confused. Okay, assault here in Florida is verbal, battery is physical. No, it's the same everywhere. Assault, here's assault. Let me show you assault. Assault is, here's assault. Watch what I get ready to do. And I do this to you, and you're in my close range, and I swing towards you, but I don't make contact with you, or either I just throw up my hand in fear that I'm going to hit you. That's assault. Battery is if I do make the contact and hit you. That's not only in Florida, it's everywhere. So that's why we use the term assault and battery. So assault can be verbal. Yeah, it can be verbal. But usually verbal depends on the word and the proximity of the individual. Threats, for example, yes. This would be assault. Absolutely. Yes, yes. But then that's why we use the term assault and battery. Sometimes battery, though, doesn't precede assault. There are times when batteries take place and it just happens unexpectedly. You know, you're not even, they hit you from behind or either unexpectedly, then you don't have a chance to get to the assault, but the battery takes place and they just pop you or cop you and that kind of thing. So that's when you get to that particular point. But yes, Kelsey, not only in Florida, but everywhere I know. So the answer is, due to tight control, assaults are rare, false, because there's not tight control, okay? They tried to do it. We've got a couple more to go. Prison guards enjoy their power and fight rehabilitation efforts. Is that true? Do you think prison guards are more into, how should I say, exercising their power over the inmates and are not really into the rehabilitation efforts? What do you think? What do you think? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Okay. See, there he goes. Now you're going to use that all the time. Kelsey's going to use that. Kelsey's going to use that all the time. I keep saying he, but Kelsey is going to use it all the time. No. Let's see. Let's go back and look. I think there's always one or two rotten apples in the bunch. Yeah. That abuse their power. I don't think they fight rehabilitation on the whole, though. Raniel says, I think that some of them do because they like being in control. That's the same thing with law enforcement. That's the same thing with any person. You know, they have that, I call it the Napoleonic complex, where you're small, but you like to run everything. But the answer is right, that both of you have, is that there's a movement now, and that's one of the other reasons why they're vying for more educated correction officers. There's no blanket. No, you can't blanket anything 100%. Yeah, you're right. You're right, and that's absolutely correct. But, you know, the word always is a dangerous word to use because, you know, Kelsey is absolutely correct, and both you guys. But the point of the matter is that, as I was saying, is that that is why the movement is toward more educated officers who can help inmates. And when you listen to this video that we're going to conclude with just a few minutes here, you're going to see why I said this. You're going to understand the importance. You might hear the phrase firm, fair, and consistent. Listen for that term, firm, fair, and consistent. And you're going to discover that these are factors that are involved. So the answer is, with the new direction that things are going, this is changing. I think let's see, I think we had, okay, that was it. So I'm not going to do any more of them because time's running out, but I do want to go to this video, which is one that's some thoughts from a prison lieutenant that is very, very, very good. And I'm going to make it full screen so you can see it. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
So what do you need to be a corrections officer? What are the requirements? GED or high school diploma. You apply online, and then they set up a testing. The test consists of a writing component and a video component. If you pass that test, you get a moment and do a series of questions that will be on your score, and then you pass that. Then all that is pass that will go out a form for criminal background check, predatory check, and a criminal history check. So that they'll start doing that. If you pass those, then you get out of your job. You get obviously get out of your job. You need to be incarcerated with a past year, and if you want, you need to provide documentation that you're supervised for one release and proving that's been completed. Okay, so you do not need a 2-year degree or experience. High school is sufficient. Yes. Okay. And then if you get hired, you have to pass physical exam, there'll be drug testing, TB testing, and then once you pass all that, you do 6 weeks of academy, and then first year employment probation. Okay, so lots of training that goes along, all the job training that goes along with it. During that first 6 weeks, it's on the job, and after that, you start on the job challenge stuff. Okay, so if I'm not really a question, it's a typical day, what would my day look like? Well, you're going to pick up your radio, your keys, your flag, everybody has a utility bill, that was that's in your pocket, your boss, you could work anywhere, no limit, you have to secure control center to supervising the bad crew, that's all that boss for officers. And seem to be more at times that constantly and very dangerous and split second. Whatever situations are just dealing with master problems, communication skills with directors, we need to get our class that way. That doesn't work. Well, the Washington Land up to got words, it's intermediate weapons, whatever it might be. And it's not it's quite regular. Deal with liability issues and people getting started. It's just not going. Okay, so you mentioned that you were in the intake facility. So do you, that's the point you make, can you talk about that and what level of security is the institution? The security level for the institution is going on through 5 without being a minimum 30 mass. You determine the a level 5 requirements for mandatory outside trial, secure program engagement, things like that. So once you got that, you got some of these things. But they come back to selling, you're going to see it in the intake area, and they're making plan. They're not specific question to take that help if you do it. They see officers selling it, and they're brought to the intake unit, which is an area to provide. They start out their data, and then they go through orientation. First, one day, they're seeing what they're all doing, so competent assessment, education testing. Around things going on, their classification, within 14 days, first 14 days of baseline measure, and they're relevant to their classification score. And their classification score will never, and it's a factor of something that is not a condition. What that is, your biologist, your behavior, your values, and then the classification, for instance, if you don't like, you cannot like, so that is so that the 25 days classification. When they come to EO, they probably spend the first 30 days in the intake unit, then they move to the next unit. So they can transfer rate for miles. Probably in about 2 weeks, they're done most of their intake needs, all their assessments and testing and stuff like that. We talked about a lot of things that actually officers do. In the text, we talked a lot about officiating and issues related to just being happy that someone works in this field. What?
Okay. Let me say I don't know. I don't know why it does that in terms of the sound, but it comes through real clear on my end. Just like right now, I'm pretty clear to most of you now because it's me speaking. So it's not it's not. Can you hear me real clear now? Can you hear me speaking real clear? Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's something that the system has in it. I don't know if it has to do with WebEx or what it is, but I do know that, yeah. So I can tell you this, though, that one of the things you can do is you can go back and you can look at it yourself in the module itself. But and it's funny, I've had some people to tell me that when they saw the video after I changed it and converted it, that it was better than it was when they heard it live. So I don't know what the deal is. That's one of the problems that we have with technology and all the different things that happen. And it also is because we're in different parts of the country. I'm here in Illinois, and you guys are, you're in Florida and Minnesota and other places. I think I mentioned both places pretty much where most got it. But anyway, the point of the matter is that it's something with the internet. I wish I could, wish it was clearer, but I will bring this up again and let them know that the videos, when I attempt to use them in my class, that they are not as clear as they are when you listen to them individually. But anyway, one of the things I will tell you that was said there at the very beginning was that you get a high school diploma or GED and you could qualify. Well, that's true, but what has happened is that most agencies are moving away from that. They're moving towards, yes, so that's good. You said yesterday. It's a good video, but be aware of the fact that one of the things that needs to be done, and I already told them, is that we need to update some of these videos in the revision to the standards now that are taking place now. But most organizations are moving towards college-educated students. The other thing that we encourage students to get a college education is because and I can use her name because she told me it's okay, Nina Watts, my former student that I had at the Romeoville campus, who was a lieutenant, she said that she started out in the same mode as this guy talked about with the high school diploma and got a job, but that it was manual, the stuff that they were doing. But what you wanted to do, you wanted to climb up the ranks and to promote it. And then she became a lieutenant where she got her associate's degree. And then 2 years later, she got her bachelor's degree. And now she's heading to law school. But the point of the matter is that the further you get in with your education, the more likely that you could end up being a leader. It's just like police officers. I try to explain to my law enforcement people, I says, there are police agencies that still will hire high school students with their high school diploma, but you won't become the chief, or you won't be able to climb up the ranks as quickly as you would like to gain better positions and to effectuate change in the departments. So the key thing is that your education opens up those doors for you. So anyway, that's about it. Any questions, comments? We went a little longer today because we did that little exercise, but I'm glad we did it because I want to always, as much as I can, give students a chance to participate and not just sit there and listen to me talk for an hour to an hour and a half, you know. So, and you get a job with entry level. Let's see, wait a minute, let me see what you said. Can you get a job with an entry-level job with associates in criminal justice? My belief is that you can. My belief is that you can. My belief is that you can. However, though, do you want to stay at an entry-level position? I didn't think so. And that's the goal. But you know what? Let me tell you something. I want to be in charge of stuff. I mean, not because I have an ego, but because I make more money, you know. And it also gives me a chance to effectuate more change in that, you know. So so the answer to your question is is probably yes. Probably yes. But it depends on the agency. You're in Florida, right, Raynell? Georgia. Okay, that was my next statement. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think in both of those states you can. Yeah. That's right. I did think about the fact that I always get you thrown. I always want to put you in Florida. So, because this is the next state, I guess. I heard, you know what? I don't get a lot of Georgia students either. I get primarily Florida and Minnesota. I'm willing to bet you that Kelsey and Carissa are probably from Minnesota. Am I right or wrong? Where are you, Kelsey? See, that's Florida. Okay, and then what about you, Kelsey? If you get a degree, they'll practically make you. Okay. Okay, so you understand my point. That's funny. That's funny, yeah. But Kelsey is either in Hernando or Pasco County. You know what? Only thing I know about Florida is this. I don't want to live there because I don't like gators and I don't like hurricanes. So I can't hang with either one of them. So I'm going to stay right up here in this cold Illinois. So, you know, I don't have anybody from Minnesota on this. I know I got a lot of Minnesota. Gators and hurricanes leave you alone. Humidity, well, I got friends that moved from here and down there. In fact, my boss, who was my academic dean, Tracy Steed, she just left here to take a job in Fort Myers. You know where Fort Myers is? The Fort Myers? Yes. Have you ever read a paper that starts with Florida man, like you don't know it's going to be? Oh, okay, Raynell, yes, right. I remember. Yeah, I know you're from California, and I think about it because when you call me, the number, I know. I know that already. Not when you say that. But the point of the matter is that now you guys can have Florida, you can have the Gators, and now you all can have the Dolphins. You can have Jay Cutler down there if you're a Dolphin fan, because we didn't want him here in Chicago anymore. I know I didn't want him here. So he got them to give him $10 million. So we'll see what he does. So, well, we're just goofing around here right now. Yeah, I've been there to visit. I've been to Orlando. I've been to Tampa. I have, yes. And the humidity, and here's what it is. It was so hot down there that I'm getting ready to. It was so hot down there that I decided that I didn't want to stay because it was like 115 during the day, and I just couldn't, Downgrade to the Dolphins, yeah. But he's making $10 million for 1 year, so go if you need money, go see him, But yeah, Orlando is a place where a lot of tourists hang out at. So I think we got a campus that's not too far from Orlando. I know we got we got Newport Richey, we got Fort Myers, we got one in Tampa, and I forget where the other two are. I think there's two more in Florida. Largo, it might be. It might be. But anyway, it's just too, I still can't get away from those gators. So then also I have some issues with some of the legal system down here. I have lawyer friends down here from here, and the system of laws. So yeah, Newport Richie. Yeah, that's where Jerry Lee is. You know Jerry Lee? Judge Jerry Lee, Professor Jerry Lee. He generally teaches J100. Yes, Intro to Criminal Justice. The first course that you take in Q1 or quarter one. So yeah, he's down in Newport Richie. He's not kind of my boss, but not. He's the dean, not the dean, the chair in criminal justice. So yeah, the law in Florida is something else, and you would say that for real, since you're from California, because California is much more liberal than Florida is. So yeah. All right, I'm going to. Oh, you're from LA also. Oh, okay. I don't like California either. I'm not a big California person either. The Rocky Mountain's going to be the coast after a while because California's just going to fall off. I got family that live there, so I haven't been back to California since 1984, before you guys were born. So, yeah. All right, well, I'm going to, you hear people say it all the time. Okay, yeah, before your time, before a lot of people's time. Yeah, I was 34 years old then. That was a long time ago. Now I'm nearly double that number. Next year I will be 68. So, but you guys keep me young. Thank you. Well, it's after 10. We're having a little fun. We're just chit-chatting now. And so whoever gets this tape and listens to it, they're going to say, what did they do afterwards? We just had fun. You should come hang out sometime with us. So anyway, I'm going to say good night to you guys. Any questions or concerns, you know how to reach me. You know the rule. And I really do answer phone calls. I do answer phone calls, don't I? Don't I answer phone calls? Anybody want to say yes or no? Yes. I answer text messages. I answer emails. I answer real fast, too. Sometimes even late at night or Sundays. I mean what I say. I'm here for you guys. So, okay. So, Carissa, you said yes, too. So, thank you guys again for being here. Have a good one, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. And take care. Good night.